Welcome back to Little English Studio, the channel where we bring history, culture, and the wonders of our world to life in clear and simple English. Today we travel to the Caribbean, to a small island whose turquoise waters and gentle winds once carried the sails of empire, the cries of freedom, and the dreams of a new world. This is Barbados, and at its heart lies a city that tells the entire story of the Atlantic world, Historic Bridgetown and its Garrison. From colonial battles to Caribbean resilience, from sugar and slavery to independence and pride, this is the living memory of a nation written in coral stone and sea breeze. Long before ships with white sails appeared on the horizon, the island of Barbados was home to the Arawak and Carib peoples, skilled farmers and navigators who lived in harmony with the sea. But in 1627, when the first English settlers landed on the island, everything changed. They claimed Barbados for the British crown, and within a few decades, the small harbour on the island's southwest coast began to grow into a bustling town, a town that would one day become the capital, Bridgetown. Its name came from a simple bridge built by the early Amerindian inhabitants across the swampy Constitution River. The English rebuilt it using wood, calling the settlement the Indian Bridge, later St. Michael's Town, and finally, Bridgetown. From its earliest days, Bridgetown became a vital port in the triangular trade that connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Sugar, rum, and enslaved Africans passed through its docks, enriching merchants and shaping a society built on both beauty and brutality. The harbour's natural shape, a deep, sheltered bay, made it perfect for ships crossing the Atlantic. Warehouses, taverns, churches, and military barracks sprang up along the waterfront. The scent of molasses filled the air, and the sound of ship bells, hammers, and Caribbean drums echoed through the streets. By the 17th and 18th centuries, Bridgetown was one of the most important commercial centres in the British Empire, second only to London itself in wealth and trade volume within the Atlantic colonies. As Barbados grew rich from sugar, it also became strategically vital. The island was the easternmost of the Caribbean chain, the first landfall for ships from Europe, and a key defence post for Britain's empire. In 1705, the British established St. Anne's Garrison just outside Bridgetown, the first permanent military base in the Caribbean. This fortress complex became the heart of British power in the region, housing soldiers, cannons, and administrative offices for nearly 2 centuries. The garrison was not just a military site, it was a city within a city. Red brick barracks lined grassy parade grounds, while officers' quarters, hospitals, and stables surrounded the main square. The architecture blended British Georgian design with Caribbean practicality, wide verandas, high ceilings, and jalousie windows that let the tropical breeze pass through. At the centre stood the main guard house, with its graceful clock tower, a symbol of British order in a tropical world. Soldiers marched in formation, horses trotted through cobbled courtyards, and drums beat the rhythm of empire. From here, British troops were dispatched to guard Barbados and other colonies, or to suppress revolts and foreign threats. The island became known as Little England of the Caribbean, loyal to the crown, disciplined, and profitable. But beneath this display of imperial control, another story was unfolding, one of struggle, survival, and the quest for freedom. The wealth that built Bridgetown and its garrison did not come from gold or silver, it came from sugar, and the people who made that sugar were enslaved Africans, brought by the thousands across the Atlantic in brutal conditions. By the late 17th century, Barbados had one of the highest population densities in the world, most of them enslaved labourers working under the burning sun on sugar plantations. Bridgetown was both a port of commerce and a port of sorrow. Its docks saw ships arrive filled with human cargo, and its markets sold not only goods but people. Yet even within this darkness, communities of resistance and resilience began to form. Enslaved Africans carried their languages, music, and beliefs across the ocean, blending them with European and indigenous traditions to create something entirely new, the beginnings of Barbadian or Bajan culture. In the narrow streets of Bridgetown, African drumming and English hymns intertwined. Freedmen opened small shops, mariners from every nation mingled, and the city became a mosaic of colours, sounds, and stories. Though the British garrison symbolised control, the spirit of the people spoke of endurance, a quiet strength that would one day change the course of history. By the early 19th century, winds of change began to sweep across the Atlantic world. The abolitionist movement gained strength in Britain, and voices calling for the end of slavery grew louder. In Barbados, revolts and protests erupted, none more famous than the Bussar Rebellion of 1816 led by Bussar, an enslaved man who dared to imagine freedom. Though the rebellion was suppressed, its impact echoed across the Caribbean. In 1834, slavery was officially abolished in the British Empire. The people of Barbados, free at last, began to shape their destiny. Bridgetown became a center of political activism and education. Freedmen built new lives, churches, and schools. The Garrison, once a symbol of oppression, gradually transformed into a reminder of the struggles overcome. By the time Barbados gained independence in 1966, Bridgetown had already lived many lives, from colonial port to post-colonial capital, from outpost of empire to emblem of identity. Its cobblestone streets had witnessed the worst of humanity, but also its capacity for renewal. Walking through Bridgetown today feels like walking through centuries. The city's historic core still follows its original 17th-century street plan, narrow, winding lanes leading to broad squares and the shimmering harbour. The buildings, made from coral limestone and brick, stand as living archives of Caribbean colonial architecture. The Parliament buildings, with their Gothic spires, rise proudly along National Heroes Square, overlooking the same wharf that once welcomed merchant ships. Nearby stands St. Michael's Cathedral, its clock tower marking the heartbeat of the city. The carriage, once filled with trading vessels, is now lined with restaurants and shops, where the smell of rum punch replaces the odour of molasses. In contrast, the Garrison area preserves a distinct military atmosphere. The old parade ground, now Garrison Savannah, is a racetrack and open field surrounded by barracks, armories, and officers' quarters. The George Washington House still stands, the very home where the young George Washington stayed in 1751. His only trip outside the United States. Here, the future American president learned lessons about tropical medicine and colonial politics that would shape his vision of liberty. Every corner of Bridgetown tells a story. The old warehouses recall global trade, the fortifications recall imperial defense, and the churches recall faith amid hardship. Yet together they form a city that is not frozen in the past, but alive with rhythm, laughter, and color. Modern Bridgetown is a celebration of Caribbean life. Steel pan music drifts through the streets, calypso singers tell stories of love and politics, and street vendors sell fish cakes and coconut water under bright umbrellas. The annual Crop Over Festival, once tied to the end of the sugar harvest, has become a national celebration of Bajan identity, filled with parades, costumes, and joy. The people of Barbados have turned their painful past into cultural strength. Bridgetown's UNESCO World Heritage status, granted in 2011, honors not only its architecture, but also its role in the human journey, from colonial exploitation to freedom and nationhood. The city stands as a testament to cultural fusion, African, European, and Caribbean influences woven into one vibrant fabric. Museums such as the Barbados Museum and Historical Society preserve artifacts from the island's long history, while art galleries showcase modern Bajan creativity. The Garrison area itself has been transformed into a space of education and community, where the echoes of marching soldiers have given way to children's laughter and local pride. Bridgetown and its Garrison are more than historical sites. They are symbols of how the Atlantic world was built and transformed. Here trade routes, cultures, and histories collided, sometimes violently, sometimes harmoniously, creating the foundations of the modern Caribbean. The coral walls, the clock towers, the cannons by the sea, they remind us of the complex legacy of empire. But they also remind us of resilience, the ability of people to reclaim their stories, to turn places of control into symbols of freedom. Today, visitors walking through Bridgetown's UNESCO zone can stand on the same stones where enslaved Africans once stood, gaze at the same sea that brought both chains and hope, and feel the pulse of a city that refused to be defined by its past. Bridgetown is not just history. It is humanity's reflection on survival, transformation, and rebirth. And that was the story of historic Bridgetown and its Garrison, a Caribbean city that carries the full weight of empire and the full light of freedom. From the rhythms of the Atlantic trade to the songs of independence, from coral stone walls to the voices of a proud people, Bridgetown continues to tell the story of who we were, who we are, and who we can become. Thank you for watching Little English Studio. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about the world's wonders, cultures, and heritage, told in clear and simple English. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.